Okay, whew, we are wrapping up this school year and I've got a giant pile of books and things that I want to talk about. So if you want to come with me and talk about our end of the school year wrap up, we're going to talk about that today. So we're going to talk about our curriculum hits and our curriculum misses, what went well and what didn't, and what are some changes I made along the way. I'm going to try my best to be honest here. Sometimes I struggle with just talking about the good things. So I'm going to talk about the not so good things here today too. So come along with me. Let's talk about that. So I've got 3 kids to get through and I've got our family subjects to get through. So buckle up with me. I'm going to try to keep it a short and sweet video. I'm going to put chapters along the bottom here. So if you need to skip to a certain subject or a certain kiddo, you can do that. But if you're here for the whole ride, let's get going. I'll start with family subjects. We'll talk about history, science, and Bible. I talked about our read alouds already in a different video, so I'll link to that in the description below if you want to hear about our read alouds. And then we'll talk about language arts and math for each kiddo. All right, here we go. Okay, we used The Kind Kingdom from the Peaceful Press. It's a literature-based and project-based curriculum for elementary students. And I love using Peaceful Press. They are definitely, literature books, living books based. And that's what I always look for in a curriculum. I loved it. And I will be honest though, I didn't do everything, and that's okay. That's kind of what they say. You do what you can do, and they always give you more than you can do sometimes. So we didn't always follow the grid, but I did love following the book list. I would grab all those books from each month. I would grab them from the library, put them in our book basket, and we would get through whatever we could all together. Most of the time though, they would just be in the book basket and the kids could pick and choose and read them as they wanted. And I made sure I focused on reading the Narnia books and some of our history and science read alouds. We started out nice and strong with the projects and the cooking, and then maybe after a month or 2, we tapered off on that and I never picked it back up again. So I'm really kind of sad, but we did do a lot of hands-on learning throughout the year, just not necessarily something from the curriculum. Every once in a while, I'd be like, we haven't done a recipe, let's do it. And like my daughter made the Antarctic fruit pizza, which was cool. That went along with our Shackleton book that we were reading. That was kind of fun. Ocean dessert pizza. There it is right there. We didn't get to as many Shakespeare stories as I wanted to, but I kind of just read them as we could. We maybe got to 3, maybe 4. That we read, and I felt like that was plenty. We're not huge on Shakespeare, but I think it's good for kids to be exposed a little bit. I was telling a friend that she asked, why do we read Shakespeare? But I was telling her that a lot of modern literature or even older literature, a lot of our language, a lot of modern movies are based on or take references from Shakespeare. So it was just kind of cool to be able to notice those references when your children are reading other literature. I picked some of the big ones like Midsummer Night's Dream, Romeo and Juliet. We did The Tempest. And then I think we did, what was the one with the 2 twins? Can't remember. That's like the one you just always start with. Comedy of Errors. I was like, what was that called? So anyway, so just those basic ones. Also, there was a lot of fairy tales recommended in The Kind Kingdom, and I did not get to a lot of them. I think we read 1 maybe, because the fairy tales were recommended on Thursdays, and Thursdays ended up being our busiest day out of the house. So I wasn't able to do a lot of the Kind Kingdom stuff on Thursdays. So we did really well on Mondays and Wednesdays for Kind Kingdom, but I missed out on some of the Thursday stuff, so we didn't get to a lot of the fairy tales. Welcome to Joyful Noise Learning. I'm Ashley. I'm a homeschool mom to 3 kids. I've been homeschooling for about 9 years now, which is hard to believe. I'm a former public school teacher, and I love Charlotte Mason inspired homeschool, as well as helping moms who are scattered and easily distracted. So if you're here to join me, I would love to see you subscribe and to stick around for a little bit. So another thing that A Kind Kingdom recommended was your picture studies. And again, I did not keep up with this very well. I did good at the beginning of the year, and we kind of tapered off at about week 11 or 12. I always did enjoy it when we did do these, and they really don't take too long. I don't know why I just didn't pull it out, but I kind of got lost in the weeds during the holidays, and then I never picked it back up in January, but I do have them all printed out, and they were just really fun to do, the ones that we did do. So there was that. And then the other thing we did and we loved and we finished that was also recommended from A Kind Kingdom, but I was going to do it anyway, was Draw Europe. And we've done this in the past. I already had the book. We've done Africa. We did draw Africa as well in the past, but everybody finally just finished their maps yesterday. So our last day of school, and they finished drawing them. And I'm just so proud of them. This is always so fun to do. I don't expect them to memorize every country, but I love that they at least, get familiar with it, and hopefully memorize like the main ones, like the Scandinavian countries or Poland, Ukraine, France, Germany, Italy, like those main ones. It was really neat because we were drawing this right around the time of the Ukraine and Russia war. So we were able to see, where Ukraine is, Poland, and Russia. So that was really interesting how that worked out this year. Very proud of them, and we love doing these, and we'll definitely use this one again. We're doing Draw Asia next year, and then the following year, I already have it planned, we're doing the North America. So we'll do Canada, United States, and Mexico the following year. So I love these. These are good. These are always a hit. So yes, definitely a hit. Oh, definitely a hit as well. So, I didn't use all of it, but what I did use was a good hit. Oh, we didn't finish it. I heard about this from Christy at One Blessed Mess last year. So we started it. We got through week 1. So 2 of my kids take piano lessons, so they are getting music experience. My middle son doesn't take lessons, but he is a musician. So I really want to keep doing this. We're going to keep going through it. It was technically a miss this year, but we're just going to pick up where we left off and keep going. I still want them to learn to read music and learn to be able to hear tones and figure out the intervals, stuff like that. So my husband and I are musically inclined and gifted, so we're helping our kids to continue to grow in those music muscles. So I just need to remember to do it. That was on me. So we'll work better to do this more often next year. Okay, for Biblia, for Bible. What did we do for Bible at the beginning? I can't remember. I kind of jumped around a little bit for Bible this year. I used the Kind Kingdom's recommendations. At the beginning of the year, we read through parts of John, and then I kind of got distracted and did other things. I don't remember what we did. We ended up jumping into Who is God for some biblical worldview study, and that was fun. We're just making our way through it. We're about halfway now, so I don't know if we'll continue with it or not, because I try to make sure we balance out actually reading the Bible and learning about God and his character and biblical worldview. I feel like you need to have both, but you can't have one more than the other too much. If you want to have one more than the other, you want to read the actual Bible instead of just reading about God, like get into God's word. So I did this for a while, and then I was like, we need to read the Bible again. So we picked up in the Kind Kingdom and read Colossians together, which was really neat. And we watched a few videos from the Bible Project, which my kids always love, and it's always helpful for biblical background and history and understanding the Bible as a whole. So I would say this was a hit. I would just go back and forth with it to balance out our biblical diet, as well as these. These were a huge hit. Love these. I recommend them for everybody. My oldest is doing Explore the Bible. This is a whole Bible overview. She actually started in the New Testament section this year. She's almost done. When she finishes that, she's going to go back to the beginning of the book and go through the Old Testament. I don't know why I did that. Don't ask me why. I had reasoning for it, but at least she's reading God's word. So this is what they do on their own. This is their own Bible study time. And then my 10-year-old, when he turned 10, got this book at the beginning of this calendar year, and he's going through Meeting Jesus. So it's a walk through a daily Bible reading plan through the Gospels, and it just goes back and forth through each of the Gospels. He's just learning about Jesus. So yeah, I love it. For more history and science, let's talk about that. So let's see, for history, my kids read books all the time that are historical based, either on their own or me with them, like our Edward Shackleton stuff. You can read more about that in our Read Aloud video. We read books together about history, but I like to do the Book of Centuries, and we continue doing this. We're not super consistent, but we get stuff in there about once a month. My goal would be twice a month probably, but so this went well. I wouldn't say it was a huge hit, but it wasn't a miss either. It was just on me again, just trying to stay consistent. But my oldest, my 12-year-old, has done this book on her own or with me for 3 years now. I think she started in her first year of 5th grade. She did 2 years of 5th grade. And then so 5th grade, and then 5th grade, and then 6th grade. So yeah. And then my 10-year-old, this was his first year doing it. And so I started at about 4th or 5th grade when I had the kids start their book of centuries. So, yep. And then for my little guy, my 2nd grader this year, I was like, you know, he sits in on all our read alouds, but I would like to give him a little more focused time in history. And we ended up picking up 50 Famous Stories Retold. I had this at the beginning of the year. Did we do it at the beginning of the year? No, we didn't. But in the last month, we read this together and he loved it. He actually sits and listens, and I would have him do a retelling or a narration afterwards, and he just like got it. He was just getting it. So we do narrations with this book, and we're 3 chapters in and we're just going to keep going with this into next year. And I like it. They're short and sweet, and they're good stories of like Britain history. It would have fit very well with our Kind Kingdom this year, but we're just going to keep doing it and keep going. And it'll be, I'll say it was a miss because I didn't do it until recently. But hey, we homeschool. We're always learning and reading. So we'll pick this up again in July when I start school again with my kids. And then for science was tricky. I have my younger 2 read a Christian Liberty Nature reader. My youngest read through book 1 this year, and that was a total hit. He read through the whole thing, finished it about a month ago. My 10-year-old read through book 2, and he finished that. He started book 3, and then he requested that we stop because his reading level is, I think he can do it, but he was feeling a little overwhelmed with some of his other reading, and I didn't want to push the envelope. So he started book 3, but it was so close to the end of the year that I was like, okay, we can put that on hold and you can pick it up again next year. So my boys read some nature study through these books. I would love to see if there was an audiobook for this, so that way my struggling reader could listen to it as he reads. I know he does better with that. So I'm going to do some research and see what we can do for that, or we might have to shelve it again. So we'll see. I got Physical World from Master Books. This is a big book. This is a lot to do in 1 year. I feel like if you're not consistently doing it every day, it's really hard to get through. And I don't do science every day. I just don't. It's a once a week thing, sometimes not during the week at all. My kids find science, they do their Kiwi crates. You know, that's the main thing that they do. That was a hit. I will say that their Kiwi crates were a huge hit for science this year, and I mostly counted that as part of their main science. We did do a few lessons in here, 3 or 4, 5 lessons, and that was about it. So I might just use it. We don't always do the activities. I just felt like I didn't have the time with all the other stuff we were doing. So I might just use it as a read aloud and just read the lessons once or twice a week and try to get through it. I might shelve it and move on to something else and come back to it later. I think it's what I'll really do. So yeah. The other thing that ended up being a hit was my daughter really loved doing science on her own. She did get a Kiwi crate, or she got the higher level Maker crate, I think. Loved those. She loves science all on her own. She does lots of reading on topics and stuff. She wanted to learn about weather this year. All my kids actually did a science class at their co-op. So a lot of them did astronomy, and then my oldest did some physical science with their co-op class. So that's why I don't do a lot of science here at home, because they get that at co-op. My oldest did start using from BJU Press the Life Science for 7th graders. I got it for her for next year, but she didn't technically have a science at home. So I decided to have her start it back in April. And it's been going really well. It's a huge hit. It's a great program, and she's learning a lot, and it's all self-directed and independent. So she watches a video and learns more all on her own. So that's been a really good hit for us, and I'm excited to keep using that into this next year. Math, 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 math. All right, let's move into the maths. Okay, where should I start? Let's start with the youngest. All right, this was a hit. He's not quite done. We'll finish it in July. But 2nd grade, Math with Confidence. I have lots of videos about Math with Confidence with my 2nd grader, if you're interested in that. And this was a huge hit. We loved it. It works for him, it works for me. We're gonna keep doing this. So huge hit. We're in the pilot group for the 4th grade Math with Confidence, and my 10-year-old was doing that. And we had to print out the lessons and then do them together and then put in our input on how we thought it went. And it turns out, I still love it. I still love it, but my 10-year-old did not love it. He wanted something more independent, and he felt like with this he couldn't be independent. There was just something about the writing that he had to do. We've made some changes to try to finish out this curriculum where he uses a dry erase marker instead of a pencil. Sometimes I write for him, but we've just had a lot of hiccups with this, so I would say it's kind of a miss. I think as a program, it's great. Math with Confidence is still awesome, but I think the fact that we felt rushed because we had to try to keep up with the pilot group, and we had a few months where we just kind of fell off the wagon and then felt so behind that we don't think we can do the pilot group again. So I don't know if it was a miss, but it wasn't a hit either. It's in the middle. So it was a hiss, I guess. We'll call it a hiss. But yeah, so that was our experience. We're going to be switching math. I did talk about that in my switching math video. You can check that out if you would like to know what we're switching to. Also, I'll give you a little hint. Part of what we're switching to is Life of Fred. We read through the entire elementary series over the last 2 or 3 years. We just finished the last one, which was Jelly Beans, about a month ago. And so I decided to have my 10-year-old start reading Life of Fred on his own and make it an independent math. And he seems to just love doing independent math. He loves it. He just finished Butterflies. He read through Apples just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to keep doing Life of Fred, individual math for everybody now. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes to read the chapter and do the practice problems, and he loves doing things quickly. So that is that little hint there. So this was a hit that we switched to kind of partway through the year, and he's going to keep doing that for next year for sure. As far as my 6th grader go, what is she now? 6th grader. She's been using Saxon Math, the Homeschool 7-6. I feel like this was another meh. It was another hiss, I guess. I don't feel like it was, I loved it. We did love Nicole the Math Lady. I will say that. So my daughter loved Nicole the Math Lady, and she loved the videos and the corny brain breaks and the fact that it's independent. She could do it on the computer on her own. And I liked how, it was a teacher teaching, and then she could do the lessons like in her book, and then she inputs the answers on the computer. She was struggling a little bit with the math still. Again, part of that is probably on me needing to check in on her more. And I worked on that this year. Well, I didn't love the spiral approach so much because I felt like she didn't get enough practice with some things before they moved on to something else. We didn't love it, but we didn't hate it either. So there you go. That was Saxon. Alrighty, now for language arts. We're going to talk about language arts. You want to see what we're doing for next year? I have those videos coming out, so make sure you subscribe. But here's our hits and misses. Spelling by sound and structure from Rod and Staff. I'd say it was a hit. It was, again, independent. My daughter finished her level 5 book, and she started her level 6 book just a few months ago, and she's still working through that. It is very simple. It has short lessons, and she can do it on her own. She liked that she could write in the book for level 5. She does not like that level 6 starts with a textbook, and then you have to write it in a notebook. She doesn't like that, but it's fine. So it was good. It was good. I'll say that. And for my boys, I put them together. We did level 2 for All About Spelling, and that's been going pretty well. So we sit down and do it mostly as dictation. I don't necessarily do like, here's your spelling words, memorize the list, and do a test on Friday. We didn't do it that way at all. It was just, hey, pull out your notebook. Let me give you a few words. Let's talk about, the spelling of these words and the sounds that you're hearing. And they did really well with it. They liked doing it together. And we made it through most of it. We're like not quite done. We're almost done. We're almost done. So they did really well with this. And I would say that this was a hit. I will say it had a learning curve. It took a while to get into, like I said, like figuring out like what works for us and how to do it. But my thought is it's really not that hard. Just read the words, have the kids write them down, and then talk about the words they didn't get and tell them what the right answer is, and then keep doing the words till they get them right. And that's basically all we did. So we really liked the sentences. So I would read, the dog stole my hat, and then they would write it. The bride has a long dress. So it would just be practicing the phonics that they had learned. Because most of them, they all know how to read these phonics, but they were both struggling with learning how to spell it. But I like this a lot. So it's not independent. They had to do it with me, but I just had to make sure I took that time during the day for them to do their spelling. But I would say it was a hit this year. continuing with phonics, we were in level 3 for my 2nd grader, and then level 4 for my 4th grader for All About Reading. And I fell off the wagon, or the train, like the train just stopped for the lessons from the book. And I feel bad because I feel like it would really, really help them, but I just did not have the time, and I could not find the time or the brain space. See, this is where we stopped right there. You can see it. But we stopped doing the lessons from the lesson book. But, so this was a miss. Again, I don't think it's a miss if you're still teaching your kids to read. I really do think All About Reading is great with teaching kids to read, but most of my boys are getting it and know like the rules that they're learning in here. It was just a little bit tedious to do. But what a hit was the readers. These were a hit. I still went with these. My 2nd grader finished the level 2 readers at the beginning of the year, and then the second half of the year he finished his level 3 readers from All About Reading. He's ready to jump into 4, but my oldest is still reading level 4, so I didn't want him to pass him up. So I gave my 2nd grader some other readers to read. I went to the library and got some readers that were about his level, making sure they weren't too hard but not too easy either. He wasn't too happy about that because some of them are harder than he would like, but I know he can do it. So he's like, I don't want to read that, and I'm like, I know you can do this, come on. So he's all about reading like the comic books and the what do you call it, graphic novels, and I'm like, you can read chapter books now, I know you can. So he's been reading a few of those. And then my 10-year-old is still making his way through the volumes of the readers for level 4. And he's doing really well. After he reads the story, we'll stop and talk about it and be like, hey, were there any words that you struggled with? And a lot of times he'll say, no, I understood everything. I'll go through and be like, hey, what is this word? What is that word? And then we'll make sure he gets it right. And then sometimes while he's reading, he'll ask me a question like, oh, mommy, what is this one? And most of the times it's the names. Like he doesn't know how to say like Jasmine. Like, how would you say that? So the names he said he's been struggling with. Micah, you know, there's like a name there. Blake. Anyway. But yeah, I'll say these are a hit, and we'll keep using them until they get through level 4, and then we'll move into some other readers. Along with phonics, we have Explode the Code for my 2nd grader, and he finished level 3, and so then I put him right into level 4, and he just finished level 4. So he did great with the phonics and Explode the Code, and I would say that was a hit. I think we're gonna stop there, and I'm gonna move him to some other things for next year. You can watch that video too, but this one was a hit. I am still doing handwriting with my younger kiddos. My 2nd grader did Zahner Blosser handwriting. He finished his level 1 and he started his level 2C, which means it's introducing cursive. So he likes this. He does the short lessons and he's working on getting his cursive going on. So I'm so proud of him. We're going to do something else for next year, and you can stay tuned for that video to find out more, but I did like this one. This was good. My 10-year-old, he did his copy work in his book, but he kept telling me, Mom, like, I don't know how to make these letters, because I got him the cursive book for his copy work. He's like, I don't know how to make this. Like, he knew how to trace it, but he was having trouble, like, knowing how that letter was made. So in order to help with our Spanish, I got him a Spanish cursive book. All my kids have a Spanish handwriting book to help with some understanding of how to write Spanish. So he uses La Escritura, and it's teaching him how to do each form of the letter. And so he gets a little bit of Spanish practice and a little bit of cursive practice as well. And that's been going pretty well. So I would say that this one was a hit. And as far as writing and grammar goes, my youngest is not using IEW yet, so he is doing narration. So I read the book to him, and then we write it down. So first he tells me his narration, and I write it, and then he copies it, what I wrote, into his book here. And we've been trying that just the last couple weeks, or few weeks. I think it's going really well. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but that's to help him just practice, you know, because he's a very, like, he can tell stories. He's so good, but he doesn't, like, write very well. But, like, as far as telling you what he remembers, he can do it. So he tells me his narration, I write it down, and then he copies it. And that, I would say, is a hit. So it's just a little notebook, just a little lined blank notebook for that. And then for my 4th grader, he is using Fix It Grammar from IEW and Structure and Style. and I would say these are hits. We are not going through them very quickly. I'm not in a hurry. So we're going to continue these for next year into his 5th grade year. And we did level 2 for the Town and Country Mouse. He started out doing it along with his sister, but I went ahead and just told her it was too hard to sit them down together at the same time because she had so many other independent stuff. So I ended up just doing this with him, just him and I. And then my daughter does her Fix It grammar just on her own when she's ready to do it. So she didn't need any teaching with it. She can do it just fine. But he needed a little bit of hand holding, which was just fine, but he's doing so much better. He's doing really well after about 9 weeks of lessons. He's on week 9 now. I've seen a huge improvement. So I'm so proud of him. We love this. And then another hit was my 6th grader did a local writing class, and she used IEW as well. They did U.S. history writing lessons, and the teacher taught it, and then she would bring it home, and then my daughter would have a week to work on her lesson, and she did so well with it. Well, she struggled with it, I'll be honest. She struggled with a lot of her assignments, and she had to learn how to pay more attention in class. The teacher offered to meet with her a few times and did a little individual one-on-one teaching with her, and that worked out really well. I know I'm a former English teacher, but doing it with my daughter, we were really struggling with that at the beginning of this last year, and having her meet with somebody else has really helped, instead of, you know, us getting impatient with each other and just rubbing each other the wrong way. You know, that was a little hard to do this year, but I'm thankful we made that choice. So that was definitely a hit. The local writing class and the IEW stuff, I've seen her writing improve so much. It's just so good. It's such a good program. I really like it, and I'm glad we're doing it. We may not do this every year, but we're going to do it again next year for sure. Yeah, that was my thoughts on that. And then I want to share about our student planner. So we started out the year with our dry erase planners, or like checklists. So my kids had all their individual work. I had to update it a few weeks in, and I really wanted this to work. I really wanted this to work because I don't have to write it every week. They just have it all right here. They just do this, and then they do this, you know, and then they check it off and they get it done. You know, we can keep track of what they've done. But I noticed that sometimes they were confused because they're like, well, do I do this time, or I don't know. There's some things that were a little bit different the next week. They weren't exactly the same every day. And we couldn't change it because it was a printed out checklist. So we went to using this. We were using this as a calendar and a bunch of other stuff, but we started using the student planner and reading record. We used it as a reading record and for our calendar, but we weren't using the weekly checklist until a few weeks ago, and it was a game changer. It was just what we needed, where I could write in each week what needed to be done, and then they could mark it off as they go. My boys, they have like typing and Nessie that they do as well. I didn't talk about typing and Nessie. Oh, anyway, but they do typing and Nessie for phonics on the computer, and they would rotate those. So Nessie is a program for spelling and phonics, and we ended up doing that instead of All About Reading because that was more independent work, and it's like fun games type stuff. They do that, and then they do typing lessons, so they're learning how to type well. So instead of doing typing every day and Nessie every day, we would rotate those. So in their books, I would write down typing and Nessie, and then I mark off, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then they do it just on the other day. So the weekly checklist from Not Consumed was really helpful, and I really enjoyed being able to write it down on a weekly basis. I might go to just a notebook and write it in the evening the night before. I know some moms do that. That's a lot more affordable. I do like the structure and the pretty planner as well. So we might be still using these because they're not done yet. We've got a lot of blank pages, and then we might buy the new one when they're done, or to save some money, I might just do a spiral notebook and write their checklist that they need to do for each day. So that's what we did. That was my miss and my hit for our checklist. My boys want to get it in the kitchen and make lunch, so I better cut this off here. Thank you so much for coming along with us on this homeschool journey this year, and for me to share the curriculum that was working great and the ones that didn't work so great this year. Let me know in the comments, did you use any of these? Did they work for you, or did they not work for you? What did you use? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? I'd love to chat about that in the comments with you. Oh, if you want to do a summer bucket list, I'm going to share that. I made a summer bucket list last year, and I know a lot of you like to use that. So if you want to print your own summer bucket list, I'll put that link in the description below, and you can get yours for free and use that for your family. So I hope you guys have a great start to your summer if you're taking a break. And we'll see you in the next one. Go find his joy among the noise.